On the way to a family reunion, my husband went pale and whispered, "Turn the car around now." I was stunned. Why? Just turn around, please. I trusted him, and it saved us. When I found out why, I never saw my parents the same way again. The plan was simple. Leave early, snacks in the back seat, coffee up front, drive a few hours, cross into Canada, hug some people I haven't seen in a while, and pretend to enjoy potato salad. It was going to be normal, borderline boring, which was honestly the goal. I was driving. I always do, mostly because I hate how my husband brakes at the last possible second, and also because motion sickness is one of my many talents. The kids were semi-conscious in the back seat, half watching a cartoon and half arguing over invisible lines drawn across the seat cushions. All three of them, ages 5, 7, and 10. Tiny chaos in matching neck pillows. It was fine. Not magical, not miserable, just fine until he said it. Turn around now. I didn't react at first, or I did, but not in a real way. I laughed or smirked. One of those reflexes you do when you think someone's kidding, but not funny enough to deserve a laugh. Why? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Just stared straight ahead, then said, "Please, just turn around." That's when I knew it wasn't a joke. My husband doesn't do panic. His default settings are calm, and occasionally tired. I have seen him get through a kitchen fire with less tension. So I took the exit, last one before the border. It curved off gently, like the road itself was offering me a second chance. The moment we left the highway, his body relaxed. Not all the way, just enough to make it obvious he'd been bracing for something. "Okay," I said. "Want to tell me what's going on now?" He shook his head. "Just drive." "Drive where?" "I don't know. Anywhere but there." The kids were starting to notice. "Are we going the wrong way?" my middle one asked. "We forgot something," I said automatically. "What?" "I'll tell you later." The youngest piped up. "Is it snacks?" I didn't answer. My husband didn't speak again for a long time. We drove in silence. 20 minutes, maybe more. Just miles of trees and guilt pressing on the back of my neck. Then he said, "Take the next turn off." It led to nowhere. A narrow access road with no sign and no real purpose. One of those places you only find when you're lost or about to be. I pulled off. He unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay here." He got out and walked to the back of the car. I couldn't see anything from where I was, so I just sat there waiting. My hands were sweating. My heartbeat was doing something weird, fast and heavy, like it knew something I didn't. After a minute, the trunk closed. He came back to my window. "Can you come out?" "Why?" "I need you to see it." He didn't sound angry or scared, just tired and very, very sure. I got out. He walked me to the back of the car and opened the trunk. Didn't say anything, just pointed. I looked and then I forgot how to breathe. I wasn't scared. Not yet. Fear was still on its way. What I felt in that moment was something slower, heavier, like falling through the floor of my own life. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I just knew we were one wrong choice away from losing everything. The funny thing is, I actually thought I was the responsible one in the family. Not responsible in a pays their taxes and wears sunscreen way, though. Yes, those too. But in the sense that I thought I could be the stable one. The one who didn't explode or vanish or lie for sport. The one who tried, the one who offered help when she could afford to and boundaries when she couldn't. But looking back now, really looking, I can see that being the responsible one in my family was like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. They didn't want help. They wanted cover, and I gave it to them for years. It started when I was a kid. My parents were the kind of people who believed that living well was a matter of image, not money. Image. If you look successful, if you seem generous, if your Christmas lights were straight and your fridge had 5 kinds of mustard, then that meant you were doing okay. Didn't matter if the credit cards were maxed out or if the gas got shut off that one winter. We were doing okay. That was the script. Stick to it or get rewritten. We had years when things were tight. I remember cereal for dinner and one parent or the other suddenly working late most nights, which I later realized was code for we don't want you to know we can't afford things. But we also had years where they were flush. New car, new TV, new patio furniture no one actually used. The money came and went like weather. What never changed was the spending. I once asked my dad why we didn't save more when things were good. He said, "You don't need to save if you know how to hustle." I was 8. My sister inherited all of this. The hustle, the shine, the gravitational pull of someone who can light up a room while quietly unplugging your self-respect. She was the favorite. That wasn't a secret. Not even an ugly one, just a truth. They liked her more. They got her. She was like them. I wasn't. I was boring. That's what they called me. Sometimes even to my face. Boring, uptight, too serious. My mom once told me in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner that my problem was I mistook discipline for personality. And the wild part, I believe them. Because when you grow up in that kind of house, you start to think the only way to earn love is to stay useful, to stay clean, to stay reasonable. So that's what I did. I became the responsible one. They'd call when they needed help navigating insurance claims or school applications. Or when my sister lost another job and someone needed to bridge the gap, I gave what I could. Not too much. Just enough to keep things from falling apart. Just enough to not be the bad guy. Even when they made it hurt, even when they framed every no as selfishness, still I gave because they were my parents, because it felt easier than the alternative. Then the ass changed. This was maybe 4 months before the trip. My sister's son, my nephew, was struggling in school. Bullied, they said. Not fitting in, anxious, withdrawn. They'd had him evaluated, and apparently some therapist recommended a smaller environment. There was a private school they'd found, very exclusive, very expensive, and in their words, life-changing. They couldn't afford it, obviously, but they'd managed to get him conditionally accepted if they put down a deposit. They just needed help, just a little bit, just to lock it in. They'd pay me back, of course. My stomach sank the moment the words came out of their mouths. It wasn't that I didn't care. I did. That's the worst part. I liked the kid. I wanted good things for him. But I also knew this pattern. I knew how it started and I knew how it ended. I said, no. I said it gently, like you'd say it to someone holding a glass knife. I can't pay for private school. I have 3 kids of my own. We don't do private school. I'm sorry. They didn't yell. They just went quiet, cold. My mom said, "Of course I forgot. You have rules." And then we didn't speak for a while until the reunion came up. Suddenly, everything was cheerful again. They were thrilled to see us. They'd figured things out. The school, the reunion, the drive. It was all working out. I didn't ask how. I told myself it wasn't my business. They asked if we'd be willing to take an extra bag in our car. Their car was too full and we had the SUV. Sure, I said. Just let me know. That was a few days before the trip. Then the morning we were leaving, as we were packing up, my dad handed me the red Duff. Won't fit in ours, he said, just this one. I took it without thinking. Just tossed it in with our luggage and the kids' backpacks and a cooler full of juice boxes. Didn't even unzip it. Didn't wonder why they were so relaxed all of a sudden. Didn't stop to ask why the people who were struggling to pay for school, groceries, gas, and who guilt-tripped me for not helping were suddenly fine. They smiled as we backed out of the driveway, waved like they didn't have a care in the world. And I remember thinking just for a second, weird. They seemed really happy for once. I didn't think much of it at the time. Just another bag. Just another trip. Just another family mess I didn't want to get dragged into. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I was too naive. He didn't sound angry or scared, just tired and very, very sure. I need you to see it, he said. I got out. He led me to the back of the car and opened the trunk. Didn't speak. Just unzipped the red Duff and folded back a sweatshirt. And that's when everything stopped. Inside, wedged in between clothes, stuffed into what looked like a child's toiletry bag sealed in plastic, were packets. Not one. Not hidden especially well, just there under layers that wouldn't have fooled anyone doing their job for more than 5 seconds. I stared, not fully understanding, then fully understanding all at once. Not medicine, not vitamins, not anything with a purpose that didn't include handcuffs, lawyers, or headlines. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Every muscle in my chest locked. It felt like drowning in slow motion. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "This is what I thought." He just zipped the bag closed again and let the silence finish the sentence. I took a step back. The gravel crunched under my shoes like it was somewhere else, like it wasn't connected to anything real. They put that in our car. I finally said. My voice was thin. They put that in our car, he nodded. With the kids, I added. Another nod. I looked up at the sky for some reason. It was still blue. It still looked like a good day. I hated that. It felt wrong, like the sky hadn't gotten the memo. How did you know? I asked. He didn't answer right away, just stared at the closed trunk like it might still be open underneath. When they gave us the bag, he said eventually. Something in their eyes, the way they smiled, like it was already done, like they were sure it would work. He shrugged, then shook his head like he was trying to knock the memory out. I couldn't stop thinking about it the whole drive. Then just before the border, it hit me. He looked at me. I didn't know, but I knew. And that was worse somehow. That someone else had seen it, what I had trained myself not to see. I turned around and walked slowly back to the driver's seat, got in, closed the door, sat there for a minute, letting the heat soak through the windshield while my hands shook. Then I started the car and drove. The kids didn't ask this time. They were deep in some cartoon. They'd forgotten about Canada, about Auntie Karen and the cousins, and the little toy bags I'd secretly packed for the reunion. We drove for a while. Highway, side roads, directionless. My phone started buzzing. First it was my mom, then my dad, then again, then again. I didn't answer. Neither did he. We didn't need to. We already knew what they'd say. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? We didn't answer. Just kept driving, the screen lighting up every few minutes like a tiny alarm. Eventually, we turned off toward their house. It was almost automatic, like we were on rails. We didn't talk about it. We just both knew what had to happen. I pulled into their driveway and parked. The front porch light was still on from the night before, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. He got out first, walked around to the trunk. I followed. We didn't say anything. I reached for the mat, found the key, still in the same place it had always been, taped to the back of a fake rock my dad bought from a catalog that also sold deer whistles and solar-powered frogs. He opened the front door. We walked inside. The air smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. We placed the red duff just inside the hallway. Didn't open it, didn't adjust it. Just set it down like a quiet bomb that didn't need to go off to ruin everything. He turned the knob, locked it behind us. We got back in the car. Still no words. I think we both felt like speaking would contaminate something. Later that day, after we got home and the kids were asleep and the house was still, I answered the phone. It was my mother. Her voice was bright, fake, like this was a call about muffins. Oh, honey, we were so worried. We didn't know what happened. You just disappeared. I didn't say anything. Is everything okay? Still nothing. Where's the bag? I let that hang for a second. Then I said, we dropped it off at your house. A pause. If it was that important, I added, maybe you should have taken it yourself. Her voice didn't change, but I heard it. The catch, that flicker of recognition, that told me she knew exactly what I meant and that I knew exactly what she'd done. She didn't say anything, neither did I. And then I said, we're not doing this. Don't call again. I hung up. That was it. No screaming, no final speech, just a line drawn and a door shut. And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. Not yet. They showed up on a Wednesday. No warning, no text, just the doorbell ringing like they were dropping off muffins instead of guilt. I knew it was them before I even checked. There's a kind of pressure that comes through a front door, like a bad smell or static in the air, especially when it's people who think they've done nothing wrong. I opened the door just enough to step outside and shut it firmly behind me. My parents were standing there like they hadn't just tried to blow up my life with a smile in a duffel bag. My mom gave me a tight, practiced grin. The kind that's supposed to look warm but doesn't reach the eyes. We wanted to check in, she said, like we were in a group chat and I'd just missed a brunch invite. My dad added, we thought maybe we could clear the air. I said nothing, just crossed my arms and waited. My mom hesitated, then said, we didn't know how much you understood. There it was, the tell. They knew. I knew. They just didn't know how much I'd let myself believe. I tilted my head. You mean the bag? Neither of them answered, which was answer enough. You put it in our trunk, I said, with your grandchildren in the back seat. My mom swallowed. We didn't think it would be a big deal. It wasn't going to be anything, my dad said, trying to keep his voice even. Just something to help with the debt, that's all. We were desperate, my mom added. You wouldn't help. There it was again. The fallback excuse, the one-size-fits-all defense. You wouldn't help. Like this was just a response to my lack of generosity. Like their betrayal was a natural consequence of my boundaries. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. You didn't just betray me, I said. You risked our lives. Neither of them spoke. You risked your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandchildren. My dad shifted his weight. My mom blinked like she was trying to cry, but couldn't quite summon the tears. We're done, I said. Don't call. Don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over. She opened her mouth. I could already hear it forming. The classic, you're being dramatic or maybe you'll cool off. Instead, she just said, you'll come around. You always do. I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door behind me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder if she was right. 3 days later, I showed up at the school to pick up the kids. They weren't there. My stomach dropped so fast I couldn't speak. I just looked at the teacher like she'd told me my house was on fire. Oh, they were already picked up, she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Your parents said you'd ask them to. I don't remember driving. I remember being in the car and I remember the sound of the engine, but I don't remember anything in between. They were at my parents' house. Of course they were. Inside, it looked like a birthday party had detonated. Toys, candy, balloons, a whole Lego set that cost more than my grocery budget for the week. The kids were glowing sugar high, clutching new things, and laughing like this was Disneyland. My parents were acting like this was all fine. My mom was slicing cake. My dad was on the floor building something that beeped. It was surreal, like walking into a parallel universe where they were the kind of grandparents who cared more about giving than taking. Only they weren't. And this wasn't love. This was strategy, emotional bribery, weaponized affection. They'd never spoiled the kids before. Not like this. Not ever. But suddenly, after we cut them off, suddenly there's Santa Claus with a debit card. I stood there for a second trying to remember what it felt like to give someone the benefit of the doubt. I couldn't. We're leaving, I said. The kids whined. But why? Grandma said. We're leaving now. They didn't understand. Of course they didn't. How could they? They were being told yes by people who'd spent their lives saying no. And they liked it. It was easy to like. Can we keep the toys? One of them asked, clutching a stuffed bear like it held answers. I hesitated just for a second. Then I said, yes, because taking the toys away would make me the villain, and I wasn't giving my parents that win. As we headed out, my mom called after me, singongy and soft. They'll come back to us. They always do. She said it like it was a fact. She said it like a promise. She said it like she still thought she could win. That night, I didn't wait for some magical sign or emotional breakdown. I just sat down on the bed, looked at my husband and said, we have to leave. He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. I don't want them near the kids. Not at school, not at the grocery store, not down the block pretending to be harmless. He nodded slowly like he'd already been halfway to the same place. You mentioned North Carolina before, I said. Your company has an office there. Your parents live there. I wasn't ready then. I am now. He nodded again. The transfer is still on the table. Good. I said, let's take it. No drama, no hesitation, just the quiet decision to burn the bridge and never look back. I didn't need revenge. I needed distance and a clean start somewhere they couldn't reach us. Fast forward a few months later, we were in North Carolina. The mountains were beautiful. The air smelled like pine and fresh starts. The kids were in new schools. His parents, warm, grounded, drama-free, lived 20 minutes away and actually wanted to help. We didn't tell anyone where we went. We blocked. Numbers disappeared, and not in the dramatic storming off to find yourself kind of way. In the we deserve peace kind of way. One day my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. A cousin, one I barely spoke to. "Hey, your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She's really upset," said. "You..." Just cut off contact. I don't know what's going on, but family matters. I deleted the message, didn't call back, didn't explain. Because by then the only thing I cared about was this. We were safe. We were free. We didn't disappear. We escaped. It was about 6 months later. New state, new school, new routines. I'd almost gotten used to not checking my phone with dread. The quiet wasn't comfortable yet, but it was no longer terrifying, just still. And then I got an email from my sister. Subject line, "Emergency. Please read." I stared at it for a while. I thought about deleting it unread. I thought about marking it as spam. Instead, I opened it. It was long, frantic, poorly punctuated. The gist? Our parents had been arrested again. This time, not for being stupid, though that was still part of it, but for actually doing the thing they almost let us get arrested for. They tried to smuggle something across the border themselves. No middlemen, no family scapegoats, just a poor trunk full of product and 2 people in their 60s who still thought rules were suggestions. They were caught, obviously. The email ended with a plea. They need help. They need money for a lawyer. This is serious. You have to put the past aside and show up. Your family. I read that line 3 times. Then I hit reply. All I wrote was, "And I did show up once. I'm not doing it again." And I meant it. I didn't hear anything else for a while. I didn't need to. But eventually, word found its way back to me, as it always does. Cousins talk, family trees have rot, but the roots are deep. They were charged with possession with intent to distribute and attempting to cross an international border with controlled substances. A few pounds, enough for intent, not enough for headlines. They took a plea deal, 4 years each. Not life-changing, but not nothing either. Enough time to sit with what they'd done if they were capable of that, which honestly I doubt. The part of me that used to flinch when people mention second chances is quiet now. We have a life here. It's not perfect, but it's ours. The kids laugh more. My husband sleeps better. And I haven't had to translate guilt into silence in a very long time. And as for the rest of it, I don't regret the boundary. Not for a second. But you tell me, did I go too far or not far enough?